A brutal pack, a hidden power, one impossible transformation that shattered everything. Welcome back to another story. Today's tale takes us deep into the savage world of the frontier packs, where bloodlines mean everything and weakness means death. This is the story of Rhea Vance, a girl who scrubbed floors, survived in silence, and then set the entire world on fire. If you're ready for betrayal, flames, and a power so rare it rewrote the rules, stay until the end. Don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. The silver shackles burned. Not the dull ache of restraint, but actual burning. The kind that made Rhea's wrists smoke where the sacred metal touched her skin. She could smell herself cooking. Small wisps curled upward in the firelight of the stone hall, and every breath she took tasted like her own flesh charring. She didn't scream. Screaming would give them what they wanted. The hall was packed. Over 300 wolves stood in the tiered galleries carved into the mountain stone, their eyes gleaming in the torchlight like predators circling wounded prey. The Blackthorn Pack didn't do small gatherings. When they wanted blood, they made it a ceremony. Rhea stood in the center of the circular floor, chains pulling her arms wide, forcing her to face them all. The ancient altar rose behind her, a massive slab of volcanic rock etched with symbols older than any living wolf could read. It was still smoking. Whatever had happened 3 hours ago, whatever had made the relic flare to life when she'd been cleaning near it, had left scorch marks across its surface. That was the accusation. Corruption of the sacred, defilement of the ancestors' legacy. The punishment was death. "She doesn't even look like she belongs here," someone muttered from the third tier. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Rhea's jaw tightened. She'd heard worse. She'd heard it all her life. At the front of the hall, seated in the high stone chairs reserved for the pack's elite families, the council watched with the cold interest of people deciding whether to step on an insect or let it crawl away. Most of them had already made up their minds. Rhea could see it in their faces. Councillor Varro, thick-necked and scarred, leaned back with his arms crossed. His nose had been broken so many times it sat crooked on his face, and his hands were the size of dinner plates. He looked at Rhea the way someone might look at a stain on expensive furniture. 17 years she's been here, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. 17 years of nothing. No shift, no wolf, no heritage worth mentioning. And we're supposed to believe she activated a relic that hasn't responded to anyone in 2 generations? "It's an insult," spat Councillor Brennan from her seat beside him. Her sharp features twisted in disgust, her thin lips pulling back to show teeth. "To our ancestors, to every bloodline in this hall, to everything we've built." Brennan had always hated her. Rhea knew that. The woman made a point of walking past whenever Rhea was scrubbing floors, stepping deliberately in the wet spots so Rhea would have to clean them again. Small cruelties, constant reminders of place. Rhea said nothing. There was no point. She'd learned that lesson young. Words didn't matter when you had no power to back them up. But then Seraphine Drake rose from her seat, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Seraphine was everything Rhea wasn't. Tall, perfectly composed, with the kind of bone structure that made people turn their heads. Her dark hair fell in a flawless curtain down her back, and her eyes, pale gray, like winter ice, fixed on Rhea with the precision of a blade finding a throat. She wore a dress that probably cost more than Rhea would earn in 5 years. Deep blue silk that caught the firelight, cut to show exactly how powerful and untouchable she was. Everything about Seraphine was calculated, deliberate, perfect. "Counselors," Seraphine began, her voice smooth and controlled. "I appreciate your passion, but let's not waste time on speculation." She descended the steps slowly, her movements deliberate, each footfall echoing in the sudden quiet. "The facts are simple. This servant was found alone with the Thornfire relic. The relic activated. She has no explanation, no lineage, no wolf form anyone has ever witnessed." She stopped a few feet from Rhea, close enough that Rhea could see the small satisfaction playing at the corners of her mouth. "She's either a thief who tried to steal something beyond her understanding, or she's something unnatural. Either way, she's dangerous. Either way, she doesn't belong here." The crowd murmured agreement. Rhea felt the weight of it pressing down on her like a physical force. 300 voices, 300 minds, all aligned against her. "I've worked here since I was 5 years old," Rhea said quietly. The hall went silent. Seraphine's eyebrow arched. I'm sorry, did you just speak? I said I've worked here since I was 5. Rhea's voice was steady, though her wrists screamed where the silver dug in. I didn't ask to be brought here. I didn't ask to clean your floors or wash your laundry or stay silent while you pretended I didn't exist. But I've been here, every day, for 12 years. And you've been tolerated, Seraphine cut in smoothly, fed, sheltered, protected by the generosity of this pack despite contributing nothing of value. And this is how you repay us? By tampering with something sacred? I didn't tamper with anything. I was cleaning the altar like I've done 100 times before. Then explain why it activated. Rhea's mouth closed. She didn't have an explanation, not one that made sense. 3 hours ago, she had been alone in the stone hall doing the work no one else wanted to do, scrubbing bird droppings off the altar, sweeping dust from the carvings, replacing the offering bowls. It was mindless work, safe work, the kind that kept her invisible. The stone hall was always empty during the day. The pack used it for ceremonies, for councils, for important gatherings. But between those events, it sat silent and cold, which made it perfect for Rhea. No one bothered her here. No one watched her with contempt or whispered just loud enough for her to hear. She'd been wiping down the Thornfire relic, a fist-sized crystal embedded in the altar's center, when it happened. The crystal had pulsed, not a flicker, not a trick of the light. A deep, resonant pulse of heat and illumination that had lit up the entire hall like a second sun. Rhea had stumbled backward, her cleaning rag falling from her hands, as the relic blazed brighter and brighter, until the symbols carved into the altar itself began to glow with molten light. For a moment, just one impossible moment, she'd felt connected to something, like the relic recognized her, like it was reaching for her across centuries of silence. Then the screaming started. Wolves from all over the compound had come running, guards, servants, council members. They'd burst through the doors to find Rhea standing there, alone, the relic still flickering with dying embers of power, the altar smoking beneath it. No one asked if she was okay. No one asked what happened. They'd grabbed her arms, rough hands, no hesitation, and dragged her to the holding cells beneath the hall. They'd locked silver around her wrists before she could even speak, before she could explain that she didn't do anything, that she was just there. But being there was enough. Being there was always enough when you were nothing. Now Seraphine circled her slowly, a predator enjoying the hunt. You have no wolf form on record, no transformations witnessed by anyone in this pack. For all we know, you're not even one of us. I'm one of you, Rhea said, hating how defensive she sounded. Then prove it. The words hung in the air like a noose. Counselor Varro leaned forward, interested now. His scarred face split into something that might have been a smile. She makes a valid point. If you're truly pack, you have a wolf. If you have a wolf, show us. Rhea's heart kicked against her ribs. No, not this. Anything but this. Her voice cracked. She swallowed and tried again. I can't just transform on command. It doesn't work like that. It works exactly like that, Seraphine said coldly. Unless you're lying, unless you've been hiding here under false pretenses, pretending to be something you're not. The crowd was louder now, voices overlapping, feeding off each other's energy. Make her shift. If she can't, she's not pack. She's probably human. Worse than human. Could be a spy. Kill her and be done with it. The noise built and built, a wave of hostility that crashed over Rhea from all sides. She'd spent her whole life learning to disappear, to make herself small, to avoid attention. Now she stood at the center of it all, exposed and burning. Enough. Counselor Brennan stood, her voice cutting through the chaos like a whip crack. This is a waste of time. Kill her or exile her. Either way, she's gone by dawn. I agree, Varro said, settling back in his chair. We don't need proof. We need her gone. The relic activated because she contaminated it somehow. Probably touched it with dirty hands. These servants never learn proper respect. A few people laughed. Rhea's hands curled into fists, the chains rattling. The silver burned hotter, biting deeper into her already blistered skin. Seraphine turned back to the council, her performance nearly complete. With respect, counselors, I recommend immediate execution. She's destabilized something sacred. We can't risk allowing her to— I'll do it. Seraphine stopped mid-sentence. Rhea's voice was louder this time, stronger. It surprised even her. I'll transform right here, in front of everyone. The hall went dead quiet. You could have heard a pin drop on the stone floor. Seraphine turned slowly, her expression unreadable. For just a second, so brief Rhea almost missed it, something flickered across her face. Worry, maybe, or calculation? What? You want proof I belong here? Fine, I'll show you my wolf. Rhea lifted her chin, meeting Seraphine's gaze directly. Her wrists throbbed, her whole body shook, but her voice didn't waver. Unlock the chains. For a moment, no one moved. The council members exchanged glances. Vero's grin widened. Brennan's eyes narrowed to slits. Then Vero laughed, a short barking sound that echoed off the stone walls. You're serious? Completely. This is going to be good, someone muttered from the galleries. More laughter. Brennan's smile was thin and sharp as a knife. If you shift and your wolf is weak, you die. If you shift and your wolf is deformed, you die worse. If you don't shift at all, she paused, savoring the moment. You die screaming. Silver poisoning is not a pleasant way to go. I understand. Do you? Brennan leaned forward. Because once those chains come off, there's no backing out, no changing your mind, no begging for mercy. You either transform and prove yourself, or you collapse and we watch you die. Those are your options. Rhea's throat was dry. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs, but she nodded. This is insane, Seraphine said, but there was something sharp in her voice now, something that wasn't quite as controlled as before. She's stalling. She has no intention of actually. Then let her fail, Vero interrupted. He was leaning forward now, elbows on his knees, grinning like a man about to watch a good fight. Unlock her. Let's see what the little servant girl is hiding, if anything. Brennan hesitated for just a moment. Then she nodded to the guards stationed at the hall's entrance. Two massive wolves in human form approached Rhea. Both were enforcement officers, the kind of men who broke up fights in the lower quarters and didn't ask questions when ordered to hurt someone. The taller one, a man named Garrett with a jaw like an anvil, pulled a key from his belt. Your funeral, he muttered, just loud enough for Rhea to hear. The key turned in the lock with a sharp click. The shackles fell away. The relief was instant and agonizing. Rhea gasped as blood rushed back into her hands, the burns on her wrists raw and blistering, the skin beneath cracked and weeping. She stumbled, catching herself against the altar. The stone was still warm. She could feel it through her palms, a residual heat that pulsed in time with her heartbeat, like the altar itself was alive. Well? Seraphine's voice cut through the haze of pain. We're waiting. Rhea straightened slowly. Every muscle in her body screamed. Her vision swam. The silver poisoning had already started working its way into her system. She could feel it like ice in her veins, slowing everything down. She had minutes, maybe less. The crowd pressed closer, filling the galleries, their breath hot and eager. Somewhere in the back, someone started a slow clap. Others joined in, the sound building into a mocking rhythm. Clap, clap, clap. It wasn't encouragement. It was the sound of people watching an execution and enjoying it. Rhea's hands shook. She pressed them flat against the altar, trying to steady herself, trying to think through the fog of pain. She'd never transformed in front of anyone before. Not once. Not in 12 years. She'd spent her entire life avoiding it, hiding, staying small, staying safe, because she'd always known, deep in her bones, in a place beyond words, that if anyone ever saw what she really was, everything would change. There would be no going back. But there was no going back now anyway. She could die quiet, or she could die honest. Rhea closed her eyes. Just let go. The thought came from somewhere deep inside her, a voice she'd been ignoring for years, a voice that didn't sound quite like her own. Stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop surviving, let me out. Her heartbeat slowed. The noise of the crowd faded. The clapping, the muttering, the cruel laughter. It all became distant, like she was hearing it through water, and then heat. Not the burn of silver, not the warmth of the altar. This was something else. It started in her chest, just below her ribs, a flicker of sensation like a spark catching dry wood. Then it spread, down her arms, into her stomach, racing through her veins like wildfire following a trail of gasoline. Rhea's eyes snapped open. The crowd gasped. Her hands were glowing, not figuratively, literally glowing, her skin radiating a soft molten light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. The veins beneath her skin lit up like channels of liquid gold. "What the hell?" someone started to say. Then the transformation hit. It didn't ease in. It didn't build slowly. It exploded. Rhea's body erupted outward in a cascade of breaking bones and tearing muscle. Her spine arched backward, vertebrae cracking and reforming, lengthening, strengthening. Her skull reshaped itself with sounds like breaking pottery. Her fingers stretched and merged, nails becoming claws that could rend steel. But it wasn't just the shift itself. It was the fire. Flames erupted along her spine as her wolf form took shape. Actual flames, burning hot enough that the air around her shimmered and warped. Her fur emerged in waves of deep charcoal gray, shot through with veins of burning orange and gold, like cooling lava. Where her paws touched the ground, the stone beneath them glowed red hot. The transformation finished in seconds. Where Rhea had stood, there was now a wolf. But not just any wolf. She was massive, easily twice the size of any normal shifter, her shoulders level with a grown man's chest. Her body radiated heat in visible waves, and her eyes blazed like molten amber, so bright it hurt to look directly at them. When she opened her jaws, heat distorted the air around her teeth. The altar beneath her paws ignited. Actual flames licked up from the ancient stone, spreading outward in a perfect circle, as if the altar itself recognized what she was. The symbols carved into its surface began to glow. Not the soft light from before, but a fierce, almost violent illumination that turned the carvings into channels of liquid fire. The Thornfire relic flared to life again, brighter than when Rhea had touched it hours ago. Its light merged with the fire radiating from her body until the entire hall was bathed in gold and crimson. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Some scrambled backward, tripping over each other in their haste to get away from the burning wolf in the center of the hall. Others just stood frozen, staring, their faces pale in the firelight. Seraphine had gone bone white, her perfect composure shattered like glass. She took 2 steps backward, one hand raised as if to shield herself. Counselor Vero was on his feet, but he wasn't grinning anymore. His expression was caught somewhere between awe and terror, his scarred face slack. Brennan's mouth opened and closed without sound. And Rhea stood in the center of it all, her wolf form towering and terrible and undeniable. She'd stopped hiding. For the first time in her entire life, she'd stopped making herself small. And the world was burning because of it. Her wolf's head turned slowly, taking in the crowd. Taking in the faces of everyone who'd ever looked through her, stepped on her, dismissed her as nothing. They weren't dismissing her now they were terrified. The flames around her paws spread wider, licking up the sides of the altar, following the grooves carved into the stone. The heat was intense enough that people in the first tier of galleries were backing away, hands raised to protect their faces. "Someone do something," a voice shrieked. "Get water! That won't work, you idiot. It's not normal fire. Call the Alpha. The Alpha's not here. Then what do we—" The doors to the stone hall slammed open. The sound cut through everything. The screaming, the crackling flames, the chaos. Every head turned. A figure stood silhouetted in the entrance, backlit by the torches burning in the corridor beyond. Tall, broad-shouldered, radiating authority so absolute that the crowd parted without thinking, creating a path down the center of the hall. Alpha King Darius Blackthorn had returned. He stepped into the firelight, and Rhea felt the shift immediately. The air itself seemed to change, becoming heavier, charged with a different kind of power. Darius moved like someone who'd never questioned his right to command anything and anyone. His dark coat hung open over a simple shirt, travel-worn but still immaculate. His boots were dusty from the road. But it was his eyes that caught her, dark, sharp, missing nothing. They swept the scene, the burning altar, the panicked council, the massive flame-touched wolf standing at the center of it all, surrounded by fire. His gaze locked onto Rhea. And for the first time in her life, someone looked at her and didn't see nothing. He saw everything. The hall had gone completely silent, 300 wolves holding their breath. Darius moved forward slowly, his boots echoing on the stone floor. The crowd pressed back to give him room. Even the counselors seemed to shrink in their seats. He stopped a few feet from Rhea's wolf form, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her fur, close enough that the flames licking around her paws nearly touched his boots. He didn't flinch. He didn't retreat. He studied her with the kind of focus that made Rhea's wolf want to either bare her throat or bare her teeth. She wasn't sure which. Then he did something no one expected. He smiled. Not a cruel smile. Not mocking. Something almost impressed. "I leave for 3 weeks," he said quietly, his voice carrying in the stillness despite its softness. "And I come back to find my pack trying to execute a fireborn." The council erupted into noise. "My lord, we didn't know." She activated the relic without permission. She could be dangerous. "We had no way of identifying." Darius raised one hand and the hall went silent again. His eyes never left Rhea's. "The Thornfire relic responds to one bloodline," he said, his voice calm but edged with something sharp, something that made even Counselor Vero sit back in his chair. "A bloodline we thought extinct for over a century. A bloodline that ruled these mountains before my family ever set foot here." He turned to face the council. "And you were going to kill her?" Brennan stammered. We had no way of knowing what she was. She's been here for years. Just a servant. No indication that—" "The relic doesn't respond to servants," Darius cut in. His voice was still quiet, but there was steel beneath it now. "It responds to royalty, to bloodfire, to wolves who carry flame in their bones." He looked back at Rhea. "You had every indication. You just weren't looking." Varro found his voice. "With respect, my lord, how were we supposed to know? She never shifted, never showed any sign of power. She survived," Darius said simply. "In a pack that makes outsiders earn every breath. In a system designed to crush anyone without a name. For 12 years. He paused. "That alone should have told you something." Seraphine spoke up, her voice carefully controlled again, though her face was still pale. "My lord, even if she does carry ancient blood, she's unstable. Look at her. The altar is on fire. She could burn down the entire compound if she loses control. Then it's fortunate I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen." Darius turned back to Rhea's wolf form. "Shift back." It wasn't a request. It was a command, delivered with the absolute certainty that it would be obeyed. Rhea's wolf rumbled, a sound like distant thunder rolling through mountains. The flames around her paws flickered higher for a moment. Then, slowly, carefully, she let the transformation reverse. It hurt less going backward, but it still hurt. Bones contracted, muscle reformed. The fire that had been burning along her spine guttered and died, though embers still glowed in places where her fur faded back into skin. Within moments, she stood on human legs again, her clothes singed and smoking, but somehow intact. Her wrists were still blistered from the silver, raw and painful. Her whole body trembled from the effort of transformation and the lingering effects of silver poisoning. She swayed, dizzy, her vision blurring. Darius moved. He was beside her in an instant, one hand gripping her elbow to steady her. His touch was surprisingly gentle for someone who looked like he could break stone with his bare hands. "Easy," he said quietly. "The first full shift after years of suppression is always rough." Rhea blinked up at him, trying to focus. Up close, she could see the details she'd missed. The scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the gray beginning to thread through his dark hair at the temples, the way his eyes were actually a very dark brown, not black like she'd thought. "What's your name?" he asked. "Rhea." Her voice came out hoarse, barely more than a whisper. "Rhea Vance. Vance." He repeated it slowly, thoughtfully. His eyes narrowed slightly, and something shifted in his expression. "Where did your family come from, Rhea Vance?" I don't know. I was brought here when I was 5. I don't remember anything before that." "Who brought you?" "I don't know that either." Rhea's legs felt like water. Only Darius's hand on her arm kept her upright. "There was a woman. She said my parents were dead. She said the pack would take me in as a mercy, that I should be grateful." "What woman?" Rhea shook her head. "I don't remember her name. I was so young. She stayed for maybe a day, then left. I never saw her again." Darius was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to the council. "Effective immediately, Rhea Vance is under my direct protection. Anyone who challenges her, threatens her, or lays a hand on her answers to me personally." His voice dropped to something lethal. "And trust me, you don't want that conversation." Vero shifted in his seat. My lord, we can't just— Can't what? Darius's attention snapped to him. Can't acknowledge what's standing right in front of us? Can't admit that maybe, just maybe, this pack has been harboring someone important without even knowing it? Important? Seraphine found her voice again, though it shook slightly. She's a servant. She's been cleaning floors for 12 years. If she were important, wouldn't someone have noticed? Someone did notice, Darius said coldly. Someone noticed enough to hide her here, to bury her identity, to make sure she grew up thinking she was nothing. He looked at Seraphine with an expression that made her take a step back. The question is why? And who? The hall was silent again. Rhea's head spun. The implications of what he was saying, that someone had deliberately hidden her, had stripped away her identity, had planted her here like a seed to be forgotten. It didn't make sense. Why would anyone do that? Darius looked back at her, and this time there was something almost gentle in his expression. Something that made her chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with the transformation. The Thornfire relic doesn't activate for just anyone, he said quietly, so only she could hear. It responds to the bloodline that created it, the family that ruled these mountains when they were still called the Ember Peaks, before they fell, before they were wiped out. But that was over 100 years ago, Rhea whispered. 137 years ago, Darius corrected, in a purge that supposedly killed every last member of the royal house. Men, women, children, no survivors. He paused, his dark eyes searching hers. Except apparently there was at least one. Rhea's breath caught. No. He couldn't be saying what she thought he was saying. You're not an outcast, Darius said, and his voice carried now, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. You never were. He turned to face the council, still holding Rhea's arm to keep her steady. Rhea Vance is fireborn, the last of a royal line we thought extinct, which means she doesn't answer to this council. She doesn't answer to your rules, and she sure as hell doesn't deserve to be executed for having the audacity to exist. Brennan stood, her face flushed with anger. This is absurd. You can't possibly— I can, Darius said simply. And I am. He looked down at Rhea, and for just a moment she saw something in his eyes that made her heart skip. Recognition, like he'd been waiting for her, like he'd known she was coming. Welcome home, he said quietly. And just like that, everything Rhea thought she knew about herself shattered into 1,000 burning pieces. The floor tilted, the last of her strength gave out. Rhea collapsed. Darius caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her easily despite her dead weight. The crowd murmured, some concerned, some disappointed that the show was over. Get a healer, Darius ordered sharply. Now! Garrett, the guard who'd unlocked her chain, snapped into motion. Darius looked down at the unconscious girl in his arms. Her wrists were still blistered, her skin pale from blood loss and silver poisoning. But even unconscious, there was something about her that was different, powerful, dangerous. He'd felt it the moment he'd walked into the hall and seen her wolf form. That impossible fire. That raw, untamed strength. He'd spent 3 weeks tracking rumors of fireborn sightings in the Northern Territories. 3 weeks following cold trails and dead ends. And all along she'd been here, right under his nose, hidden in plain sight as a servant. Whoever had done this, whoever had taken a fireborn child and buried her identity, had done it for a reason. And Darius was going to find out what that reason was, even if he had to burn the truth out of everyone in this hall. Rhea woke to the smell of herbs and the sting of salve on raw skin. Her wrists throbbed. Every breath felt like dragging air through broken glass. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Her entire body screamed in protest. Muscles she didn't know she had cramping and seizing. Don't move. The voice was female, clipped and professional. Rhea forced her eyes open. A woman stood beside the bed, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, mixing something in a stone mortar. Her hands moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She wore the dark green robes of a pack healer, the fabric marked with old stains that no amount of washing would ever fully remove. Where? Rhea's voice cracked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. The Alpha's personal quarters. The healer didn't look up from her work. 3rd floor of the main house. You've been unconscious for 14 hours. 14 hours. Rhea looked around slowly, trying to piece together where she was. The room was large. larger than anywhere she'd ever slept. A fireplace dominated one wall, flames crackling softly. The bed she lay in was massive, covered in furs that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. Actual glass windows looked out over the compound, showing the gray light of early morning. This wasn't a room for servants. This was a room for someone who mattered. The wrongness of it made her skin crawl. "I need to go," Rhea said, pushing herself up despite the pain. "I need to get back to the dormitories before what?" The healer finally looked at her, one eyebrow raised. "Before someone notices you're not scrubbing floors? I think that ship has sailed, girl." The memories crashed back. The stone hall. The accusations. The transformation. Darius. "You're not an outcast. You never were." Rhea's hands started shaking. "Here." The healer thrust a cup at her. "Drink. It'll help with the pain." Rhea took it automatically. The liquid inside was dark and smelled like earth and something bitter. She drank it anyway. Within seconds, the worst of the cramping eased. "Silver poisoning is nasty business," the healer said, returning to her mortar. "Another hour in those chains and you'd have lost the use of your hands permanently. As it is, you'll have scars." Rhea looked down at her wrists. Someone had wrapped them in clean bandages, but she could see the edges of the burns peeking out, angry red flesh that would never heal quite right. "The Alpha wants to see you when you wake up," the healer continued. "I'm supposed to inform him the moment you're conscious." "Don't." The healer paused. "Excuse me? Don't tell him I'm awake, please." Rhea swung her legs over the side of the bed, testing her weight. Everything hurt, but she could stand. That was something. I need a minute to think." "Thinking won't change what happened last night." "I know that. Then what exactly are you planning to do? Run?" The healer's expression was unreadable. "You transformed in front of 300 witnesses. You activated a relic that hasn't responded to anyone in over a century. The Alpha himself declared you under his protection. There's no going back to being invisible, girl. That door is closed." Rhea knew she was right, but knowing something and accepting it were different things. She'd spent 12 years perfecting the art of being nobody, moving through spaces without leaving an impression, doing her work and disappearing before anyone could remember her face. Now everyone would remember her face. Now everyone would be watching. The thought made her want to crawl out of her skin. A knock sounded at the door. The healer moved to answer it, but the door opened before she could reach it. Darius stepped inside. He looked different in daylight. Less intimidating, maybe. Or just tired. He'd changed out of his travel clothes into something simpler. Dark pants, a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His hair was damp, like he'd just bathed. His eyes found Rhea immediately. "You're awake." It wasn't a question. "I'll give you privacy," the healer said, gathering her supplies. She paused at the door, looking back at Rhea. "Change those bandages twice a day, and drink water, lots of it. Your body is still recovering from the shift." Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. Silence settled over the room like snow. Darius moved to the fireplace, feeding it another log. The flames jumped higher, casting dancing shadows across his face. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I got run over by a horse." Rhea's voice was flat. "Multiple times." "That's about right." He turned to face her. First full transformation after years of suppression is brutal. Your body has to remember how to do something it's been actively prevented from doing. "I wasn't preventing it." "Yes, you were." His voice was gentle but firm. "Maybe not consciously, but you've been keeping your wolf locked down since you were old enough to understand that being different was dangerous. That's a kind of prevention." Rhea didn't have an answer for that. Darius pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat, his movements deliberate and unhurried. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About what happens next." "I go back to the servant quarters and try not to get murdered in my sleep?" Rhea's laugh was brittle. "That seems like a solid plan." "You're not going back to the servant quarters." "Then where am I supposed to go?" "You stay here." Darius leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "In the main house, under my direct protection." "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. Darius's eyebrow rose. "No, I can't stay here. This isn't—" Rhea gestured at the room, at the expensive furs, at the windows that let in actual light. This isn't where I belong. Where do you belong then? I don't know. But not here. Not in the Alpha's quarters like I'm someone important when everyone in this pack knows I'm not. Everyone in this pack is wrong, Darius said quietly. You don't know that. I know what the Thornfire relic does. I know what it means when a fireborn wolf emerges after a century of silence. And I know that someone went to a lot of trouble to hide you here. His dark eyes were steady on hers. Those aren't coincidences, Rhea. Maybe the relic is broken. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, a fluke. You don't believe that. He was right. She didn't. But believing it meant accepting that her entire life had been a lie. That she wasn't actually nobody. That somewhere, somehow, she came from something that mattered. And that was more terrifying than any execution. What do you want from me? Rhea asked finally. Darius was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured. I want you to stay alive long enough to figure out who you really are. I want you to learn to control that fire before it burns you from the inside out. And I want to find out who hid you here and why. That's a lot of wants. It's a complicated situation. So what do I do? Just stay here? In your rooms? While the entire pack whispers about how the servant girl is sleeping in the Alpha's bed? Darius's jaw tightened. No one is going to say anything like that. You really believe that? They won't if they value their tongues. Despite everything, Rhea almost smiled. Almost. A louder knock sounded at the door. Harder, more insistent. Darius's expression shifted. Come in. The door opened to reveal Counselor Brennan, her sharp features drawn tight with barely controlled anger. Behind her stood Vero and two other council members Rhea recognized but didn't know by name. We need to speak with you, Brennan said, her eyes flicking to Rhea with undisguised contempt. Privately. Anything you have to say can be said in front of Rhea. This concerns her. It concerns the entire pack's safety. Then by all means, Darius gestured to the chairs. Speak. Brennan's mouth thinned, but she stepped inside. The other council members followed, spreading out like they were preparing for a fight. An emergency council session was held this morning, Brennan began. The topic was the incident in the stone hall. Incident, Rhea muttered. That's one word for it. Brennan ignored her. There are concerns, significant concerns about allowing someone with that kind of unstable power to remain in the compound. She's not unstable, Darius said evenly. She set the altar on fire. The altar activated in response to her bloodline. That's not instability, that's recognition. Varro stepped forward, his scarred face carefully neutral. With respect, my lord, we don't actually know what her bloodline is. We have theories, we have the relic's reaction, but we don't have proof. The relic is proof. The relic could be malfunctioning. It hasn't been used in over a century. Who knows what? It's not malfunctioning, Darius cut in, his voice dropping to something dangerous. And if you're suggesting we throw out centuries of tradition because it's inconvenient for your narrative, you can leave now. Silence. Then Brennan spoke again, her voice carefully controlled. Even if we accept that she's fireborn, and that's a significant if, she still poses a danger. She has no training, no control, no understanding of what she is. What happens the next time she transforms? What happens if she loses control in the middle of the compound instead of an empty stone hall? That's why she'll be trained, Darius said. By who? No one in this pack has dealt with fireborn wolves in living memory. We don't have the knowledge to... I'll train her. Every head turned to stare at him. You, Brennan repeated slowly. Yes. You're the Alpha. You have responsibilities, territories to manage, alliances to maintain. You can't just, I can do whatever I want. That's what being Alpha means. Darius stood, and the council members actually took a step back. Rhea stays. She trains. She learns control. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Vero's expression darkened. The pack won't accept this. They won't accept her. Not after what happened. Not after... Then the pack needs to adapt. You're asking them to accept someone who appeared out of nowhere, who has no verified lineage, who survived 12 years in a system designed to break her, Darius interrupted, who transformed into something we haven't seen in generations, who activated a relic that responds only to royal blood. He looked at each council member in turn. If the pack can't accept that, the problem isn't with Rhea, it's with the pack. Brennan's hands curled into fists at her sides. This is a mistake. That's my decision to make. Your father would never have allowed this. My father is dead. Darius's voice was flat, and his methods died with him. Now, if you're finished questioning my authority, I have work to do. It was a dismissal, clear and absolute. The council members filed out, their faces tight with anger and frustration. Brennan was the last to leave, pausing at the door to look back at Rhea. This won't end well for you, she said quietly. People like you don't belong in places like this. Eventually, everyone sees through the pretense. Then she was gone. Rhea's hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against her thighs, trying to steady them. Don't listen to her, Darius said. Why not? She's right. People like me don't belong here. There are no people like you, that's the point. Rhea laughed, a short, bitter sound. You don't even know me. How can you be so sure about any of this? I know enough. Based on what? A relic? And a transformation? That's not knowing someone. That's just reacting to power. Darius was quiet for a moment. Then he moved to the window, looking out over the compound. When I was 12 years old, my father took me to the old archives beneath the stone hall. He showed me records going back 400 years, treaties, alliances, family trees, and stories. Lots of stories. He turned to face her. One of those stories was about the Fireborn, about how they ruled these mountains before my family came north, about how they could call flame from stone, how their wolves burned bright enough to light up entire valleys, how they were betrayed and slaughtered in a single night by people they trusted. Rhea's chest tightened. My father told me that story as a warning, Darius continued. He said power like that was dangerous, unstable, that it was better that line had died out because no one should have that much strength. Sounds like he agreed with Brennan. He did, and he was wrong. Darius's expression was steady. Power isn't the problem, fear is, and I'm not interested in ruling through fear. Then why keep me here? Why protect me? If you're not afraid of me, if you don't want to use me, what's the point? Because someone tried to erase you, Darius said simply. Someone looked at a 5-year-old child and decided she was too dangerous to exist. They stripped away your name, your history, everything that might have told you who you were, and they planted you here to die slow and invisible. His voice hardened. I want to know who did that, and I want them to face what they tried to destroy. The words hung in the air between them. Rhea didn't know what to say, didn't know what to feel. Before she could figure it out, shouting erupted from somewhere below. Darius's head snapped toward the window. Stay here. What's happening? I don't know. He was already moving toward the door. But stay in this room. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or the healer. Darius, stay here. Then he was gone, the door slamming behind him. Rhea sat frozen for exactly 3 seconds. Then she stood, crossed to the door, and followed him. She wasn't good at following orders. She'd learned that lesson young, too. The hallway outside was chaos. Wolves ran past, heading for the stairs. Voices overlapped, sharp with panic. In the courtyard, how many... Someone get the alpha... Rhea pressed herself against the wall, letting the crowd flow past her. Then she followed, staying to the edges, keeping her head down. Old habits. She made it to the main staircase and descended quickly, her bare feet silent on the stone steps. The pain in her body was a distant thing now, buried under adrenaline and the need to understand what was happening. The front doors stood open. Wolves crowded the entrance, blocking her view. Rhea pushed through, not gently, not carefully, just pushed. Someone shoved back. Watch it! They stopped mid-word when they saw her face. The crowd parted. Rhea stepped out into the courtyard and froze. The space was packed with wolves, but not pack members. These were outsiders, rogues maybe, or another pack entirely. 50 of them at least, arranged in a loose semicircle facing the main house. At their center stood a woman. She was tall, willowy, with silver blonde hair that fell past her waist. Her clothes were travel-worn but expensive, and she moved with the kind of confidence that came from never doubting your right to be anywhere. Her eyes locked onto Rhea. "There she is," the woman said, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "The girl who set the mountain on fire." Darius stood between them, his posture defensive. "Explain why you're here, Celeste. Now." Celeste. The name meant nothing to Rhea, but the woman's smile was sharp as broken glass. "I'm here for her," Celeste said, pointing at Rhea. "I'm here to collect what was stolen from my family 17 years ago." The courtyard went silent. Darius's expression darkened. "She's under my protection." "Is she?" Celeste tilted her head. "Because from where I'm standing, she looks like a lost little girl playing dress-up in clothes that don't fit." She took a step forward. "That child's mother murdered 3 members of my pack. Burned them alive while they slept. Then she ran, took her daughter, and disappeared into the mountains." Another step. "We've been looking for her ever since." Rhea's blood went cold. "You're lying," she said. "Am I?" Celeste's eyes glittered. "Tell me, Rhea Vance, do you remember your mother's face? Do you remember anything before you woke up in this pack, stripped of everything you were?" Rhea's mouth went dry. She didn't remember. She'd tried over the years, tried to pull up even a fragment of memory from before she was 5. There was nothing. Just darkness. "I thought not." Celeste's smile widened. "Memory charms are tricky things, expensive, but effective." "That's enough," Darius said, his voice low and dangerous. "Is it?" "I don't think so." Celeste addressed the crowd now, her voice rising. "This girl, this fireborn abomination, is the daughter of a murderer. Her mother slaughtered innocent wolves and fled like a coward. And now she's here, hiding behind your alpha, pretending to be something she's not." The crowd murmured. Rhea could feel the shift, the way people looked at her changing, hardening. "You have no proof," Darius said. "Don't I?" Celeste pulled something from her coat, a piece of cloth, stained dark with old blood. "This belonged to one of the wolves her mother killed. The bloodline is still detectable, and I'm willing to bet if we test it against her blood, we'll find a match." "Convenient that you just happen to have that with you." "I've been tracking her for 17 years. I'm prepared." Darius's hands curled into fists. "Even if what you're saying is true, even if her mother committed those crimes, Rhea is not responsible for what her mother did. In our law, she is. Blood debt passes through generations. The daughter pays for the mother's sins." Celeste's voice was cold now, all pretense of civility gone. "Hand her over, or we take her by force." The 50 wolves behind her shifted, hands moving to weapons. Darius didn't move. "You're not taking her anywhere." "Then you're choosing war, if that's what it takes." The tension in the courtyard ratcheted up to breaking. Rhea could feel it like electricity on her skin, crackling and dangerous. She stepped forward. "Rhea, don't—" Darius started. "If what you're saying is true," Rhea said, her voice steadier than she felt. "If my mother really killed your pack members, show me proof. Real proof, not just a piece of bloody cloth you could have gotten anywhere." Celeste's smile returned. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm saying I want evidence before I believe I'm the daughter of a murderer." "Fair enough." Celeste gestured to one of her wolves, a massive man with scars crisscrossing his face. He stepped forward, holding a leather satchel. He pulled out a photograph. Even from a distance, Rhea could see it clearly. A woman with dark hair and amber eyes holding a small child. The woman was smiling. The child looked maybe 3 years old. The child looked exactly like Rhea. "That was taken 2 years before your mother burned my family alive," Celeste said softly. "Before she took you and ran. Before she wiped your memories and dumped you here to hide." Rhea couldn't breathe. She knew that woman's face. She didn't remember it consciously, but somewhere deep in her bones, in a place beyond memory, she knew. "This doesn't prove she killed anyone," Darius said, his voice tight. "No, but this does." The scarred man pulled out another photograph. This one showed bodies, 3 of them, burned so badly they were barely recognizable as wolves. The courtyard went silent. "My sister," Celeste said quietly. "My cousin. And my cousin's mate. They were sleeping when your mother set their house on fire. They never had a chance." Rhea's vision blurred. No, this couldn't be real. "The blood debt is owed," Celeste said, "and I'm here to collect. one way or another. Darius moved in front of Rhea, his body a shield. You'll have to go through me first. If you insist, Celeste raised her hand, and 50 wolves surged forward. The first wolf that reached Darius didn't make it past his fist. The crack of bone echoed across the courtyard as the man's jaw shattered, his body crumpling. Darius moved like violence given form, precise, brutal, unstoppable. 2 more wolves went down before Rhea could draw breath, but there were 50 of them, and only one of him. Fall back, someone shouted from the main house. Pack members poured out, forming a defensive line. Steel rang as weapons were drawn. The courtyard exploded into chaos. Rhea stumbled backward, her bare feet slipping on stone. A wolf lunged at her, young, maybe her age, his teeth already elongating for the shift. She dodged on instinct, felt claws rake across her shoulder instead of her throat. Pain bloomed hot and immediate. She hit the ground hard, her bandaged wrists screaming. The wolf came at her again, faster this time. Then Darius was there, grabbing the kid by the throat and throwing him 20 feet like he weighed nothing. I told you to stay inside, Darius's voice was raw with fury. I don't follow orders well. I noticed. He blocked a strike aimed at his head, countered with an elbow that dropped his attacker instantly. Get behind me. Rhea scrambled to her feet. Blood ran down her arm from the claw marks, warm and slick. Around them, the fighting intensified. Blackthorn wolves against Celeste's pack, the sound of it deafening, snarls, screams, the wet crunch of bodies hitting stone. Celeste stood at the edge of it all, watching. Not fighting, just watching. Her pale eyes found Rhea's. She smiled. Stop! The voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Counselor Brennan stood on the steps of the main house, her arms raised. Stop this immediately. Incredibly, people listened. The fighting stuttered, paused. Wolves backed away from each other, breathing hard, blood on their hands and faces. Brennan descended the steps slowly, her expression carved from ice. This is neutral ground. Ancient law forbids bloodshed in the heart of a pack's territory without formal declaration of war. Then consider this a formal declaration, Celeste said calmly. You can't declare war over a blood debt. That's not how it works. It is when the debtor is being protected by another alpha. Celeste's voice was reasonable, almost pleasant. Darius has made his position clear. He chooses her over peace. That makes this his war too. Brennan's jaw tightened. She looked at Darius. Is she right? Are you willing to go to war over this girl? Darius didn't hesitate. Yes. Even though you don't know if what Celeste claims is true? Even though there's no verification of, I know enough, Darius said flatly. You know nothing. Brennan's voice rose, anger cracking through her control. You're risking everything, the entire pack's safety, for someone who showed up in our lives yesterday. She didn't show up yesterday. She's been here for 12 years. You just didn't bother looking. Because there was nothing to see. There was everything to see. You were just too busy looking down to notice. Brennan's hands curled into fists. She turned to Celeste. What proof do you have? Real proof, not photographs anyone could fake. I have witnesses, Celeste said. 3 wolves who survived the fire and saw her mother flee. They can testify. Testimony can be bought. Then let's test the blood. Celeste pulled a small vial from her pocket, dark liquid that caught the light. This is from one of my family members who died. Blood magic doesn't lie. If she's related to the killer, the blood will recognize it. Brennan looked at Rhea. Do you consent to testing? Rhea's mouth was dry. Her shoulder throbbed. Everything in her wanted to run, to hide, to disappear into the mountains and never come back. But running would prove them right. Running would make her guilty. Yes, she said quietly. Rhea, Darius started. I need to know, she interrupted. I need to know if what she's saying is true. Celeste's smile widened. She gestured to the scarred man with the satchel. He approached Rhea slowly, pulling out a small knife. Just a drop, Celeste said. That's all we need. The scarred man grabbed Rhea's hand, not gently. His grip was iron hard, his fingers digging into her wrist right where the silver burns were worst. She gasped, pain spiking white hot. Careful, Darius growled. The man ignored him. He pressed the knife to Rhea's palm, drew it across in one swift motion. Blood welled up, dark and fast. He held her hand over the vial Celeste had opened, let 3 drops fall into the dark liquid inside. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the vial began to glow. Soft at first, barely visible in the morning light, then brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The liquid inside churned, turning from dark red to brilliant crimson. The scarred man released Rhea's hand and stepped back. Celeste held up the vial for everyone to see. "Blood recognizes blood," she said quietly. "That glow means shared lineage, shared family." She looked at Rhea. "Your mother killed mine. That's not speculation. That's not theory. That's fact." The courtyard was silent. Rhea stared at the glowing vial, her mind refusing to process what she was seeing. It couldn't be real. It couldn't be. "Blood magic can be manipulated," Darius said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Not like this. Not without detection." Celeste closed her hand around the vial, the light dying. "The debt is real. The claim is legitimate. And according to ancient law, she comes with me." "No," Darius said. "You don't have a choice." "I'm the Alpha. I always have a choice." "Then choose." Celeste's voice hardened. "Choose war. Choose to watch your pack bleed for someone who isn't worth it. Choose to destroy everything your father built because you're too stubborn to admit you're wrong." Brennan spoke up. "We should put it to a vote." Darius rounded on her. "A vote?" "The council has the right to vote on matters of war. You know that." "This isn't a matter of war. This is exactly a matter of war." Brennan's composure finally shattered. "You're talking about fighting another pack over a blood debt claim that appears to be legitimate. That affects all of us. We have a right to decide if we're willing to die for her." The crowd murmured agreement. Darius looked around at his own wolves, the people he'd led for 5 years, the people who were supposed to trust him. More than half of them wouldn't meet his eyes. "Fine," he said, his voice like gravel. "Vote." Brennan didn't waste time. "All in favor of releasing Rhea Vance to answer the blood debt claim, raise your hand." Hands went up. Too many hands. Vero's hand. 3 other council members. At least 30 wolves in the crowd. Those opposed? Fewer hands. Much fewer. Darius stood alone at the front, his hand raised, his expression carved from stone. "The council votes to release her," Brennan said. There was no satisfaction in her voice, just resignation. "I'm sorry, my lord, but this is the will of the pack." "The will of the pack," Darius repeated slowly, "is to throw an innocent girl to the wolves because you're all too scared to stand up for what's right." "We're being practical," Vero said from his position on the steps. "One life versus the whole pack? That's not a hard choice. It is if you have any honor. Honor doesn't feed families when crops burn. Honor doesn't protect children when enemy packs attack." Vero's voice was flat. "You're young, my lord. You still think ideals matter more than survival. Some of us know better." Darius took a step toward him. Vero didn't back down. "Enough," Celeste said, her voice cutting through the tension. "The vote is done. The decision is made." She looked at Rhea. "Come here, girl." Rhea didn't move. Her shoulder bled. Her hand bled. Her whole body hurt. But more than that, more than the physical pain, something inside her was breaking. She could feel it cracking like ice under pressure, all the careful walls she'd built to survive in this place shattering piece by piece. She'd spent 12 years being nothing, 12 years invisible. And the first time she dared to be something more, the first time she let herself hope that maybe she mattered, this was what happened. "Rhea," Darius said quietly, "look at me." She did. His dark eyes were steady, certain. "You don't have to do this. The vote? Forget the vote. You want to fight, we fight. You want to run, I'll help you run, but you don't have to go with her. If I don't, people die. Your people. Let me worry about my people." "They're not worried about me," Rhea said. The words came out flat, empty. "They voted to throw me away. Why would I care if they bleed for it? Because you're better than they are." Rhea laughed, a broken sound that hurt coming out. "Am I? My mother was a murderer. I carry her blood. Maybe I'm exactly what they think I am." "You're not. You don't know that. I know you've survived 12 years in a place that wanted you to break. I know you hid your power because you were smart enough to understand showing it would get you killed. I know you stood in that hall last night and faced death without begging. His voice dropped. That's not a killer, that's a survivor. Rhea wanted to believe him. She wanted it so badly it physically hurt, but the glowing vial had been real. The blood magic didn't lie. Her mother had killed those people, and in the law of the packs, that made Rhea guilty too. I'll go, she said. Rhea, I'll go, she repeated, louder this time. She looked at Celeste. But I want something first. Celeste's eyebrow arched. You're not in a position to negotiate. Then you're not in a position to take me without more bloodshed. Rhea straightened despite the pain, despite everything. I'll go willingly. No fight. No resistance. But you give me 1 week to find out what really happened. 1 week to talk to the witnesses, to see the evidence, to understand what my mother actually did. Why would I agree to that? Because if I go willingly, your wolves don't have to fight his wolves. Nobody else dies today. But if you try to take me by force, Darius will fight you. And even if you win, you'll lose people. Rhea met her eyes. 1 week, that's all I'm asking. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. You're braver than I expected. Or stupider. I haven't decided which. Is that a yes? 1 week. But you stay in my custody, my territory, my rules. And if at the end of that week you try to run, I won't run. If you do, I'll burn this entire compound to the ground finding you. Every building, every wolf, everything. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Rhea nodded. Understood. No! Darius grabbed her arm. You can't trust her. You can't. I don't have a choice. Rhea pulled free, gentle but firm. They voted, Darius. Your own pack voted to give me up. Fighting that won't change anything except body count. I don't care about the vote. You should. You're their alpha. They need to trust you, and you need to trust them. This just proves nobody trusts anybody right now. She tried to smile. Failed. 1 week. I'll figure it out in 1 week. And if you can't, then I face whatever punishment Celeste decides. But at least I'll know the truth first. Darius looked like he wanted to argue more, like he wanted to fight the whole world to keep her here. Instead, he stepped back. 1 week, he said to Celeste, his voice deadly quiet. She gets 1 week, and if anything happens to her, if she's harmed, if she's mistreated, if she comes back with so much as a bruise I didn't see her leave with, there won't be enough of your pack left to bury. Celeste's smile didn't waver. She'll be treated fairly. You have my word. Your word means nothing to me. Then I suppose we're even. Celeste gestured to her wolves. Bind her hands, silver, but not tight enough to burn. We're not savages. 2 wolves approached with shackles. Rhea held out her hands. The silver closed around her wrists, lighter than before, not burning, but still there. Still a reminder of what she was. A prisoner. Celeste turned to leave, her wolves falling into formation around her. Wait! Seraphine's voice rang out from the crowd. Everyone turned. Seraphine pushed through the gathered wolves, her perfect composure back in place like she'd never lost it. She looked at Celeste. If you're taking her for a blood debt, I want to go too. Celeste's expression shifted. Why? Because I have questions. About what really happened 17 years ago. About why a fireborn child ended up hidden in our pack. Seraphine's gray eyes were cold. If there's more to this story, I want to know it. You think I'm lying? I think everyone lies when it serves them. Including you. Including her. Seraphine gestured at Rhea. 1 week to find the truth? Fine. But I'm coming to make sure that truth isn't manipulated. Celeste considered this, then nodded. Allowed. But you follow my rules too. Of course. Darius's expression darkened. Seraphine. I'm doing this for the pack, Seraphine interrupted smoothly. If she's innocent, we need to know. If she's guilty, we need proof. Either way, having a witness protects our interests. It was logical, practical. It was also bullshit, and everyone knew it. Seraphine just wanted to watch Rhea suffer. But Darius couldn't argue against it without looking unreasonable. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. Celeste smiled. Then we're done here. We leave within the hour. She turned and walked away, her wolves following. Rhea took one last look at the compound, at the stone buildings, at the mountains rising behind them, at the faces of wolves who'd voted to throw her away. Then she looked at Darius. He stood alone on the steps, his hands curled into fists, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. She wanted to say something. Thank you, maybe. Or I'm sorry. Or don't forget me. But none of those words felt right. So she just nodded and followed Celeste into the unknown. The journey took 2 days. They traveled north through mountain passes Rhea had never seen, forests so dense the sunlight barely penetrated. Celeste's wolves moved in tight formation, always watching, never speaking except in short tactical bursts. Rhea walked in the center of it all, her wrists bound, Seraphine beside her like a beautiful poisonous shadow. Must be strange, Seraphine said on the second day, her voice conversational. Learning your mother was a murderer. Rhea didn't answer. I mean, you spent your whole life thinking you were nobody. Turns out you're worse than nobody. You're somebody's mistake. Are you trying to hurt me, or are you just bored? Both, Seraphine smiled. I don't like you, Rhea. I never have. You always had this look in your eyes like you were better than the rest of us, even when you were scrubbing floors. I never thought I was better than anyone. Yes, you did. You just hid it well. Seraphine's voice dropped. But now everyone sees what you really are. A killer's daughter. A debt waiting to be paid. What do you want from me, Seraphine? I want you to disappear, permanently. And in about 5 days, I think I'll get exactly that. Rhea turned to look at her. You really think Celeste is going to kill me? I think she's going to make you wish you were dead first. Then yes, absolutely. And you're okay with that? I'm thrilled with it. Seraphine's smile was radiant. You were always a problem, an anomaly, something that didn't fit. Now you'll be gone, and everything can go back to how it should be. Rhea almost laughed. You have no idea what's coming, do you? What's that supposed to mean? It means things are already broken. The pack voted to throw me away to save themselves. That's not strength. That's fear. And fear makes people do stupid things. Like what? Like trusting you. Seraphine's expression flickered. Darius doesn't trust me. Not you specifically, but he trusted the pack to make the right choice. And they didn't. That crack won't heal just because I'm gone. It'll spread. And eventually, everything falls apart. You're awfully confident for someone walking to her execution. I'm realistic. There's a difference. Before Seraphine could respond, the forest opened up ahead, and Rhea saw Celeste's territory for the first time. It wasn't like Blackthorn's compound. There were no stone buildings, no permanent structures. Instead, there were tents, hundreds of them, arranged in precise circles around a central clearing. Fires burned in iron braziers. Wolves moved between the tents like ghosts, silent and watchful. It looked temporary, mobile, like they could pack up and disappear in an hour if they needed to, like a pack that had spent years running or hunting. Celeste led them to the largest tent at the center. Inside, the space was surprisingly comfortable. Furs on the ground, a low table, cushions for sitting. Not luxury, but not prison either. You'll stay here, Celeste said, gesturing to a sectioned-off area at the back. Food twice a day, water whenever you want. The shackles stay on. And the witnesses? Rhea asked. When do I talk to them? Tomorrow. They're being brought in from the border territories. Should arrive by nightfall. And until then? Until then, you wait. Celeste looked at Seraphine. You'll stay in the guest tent. Someone will show you. Seraphine left without a word, shooting Rhea one last venomous smile. Alone with Celeste, Rhea felt the weight of everything crash down. Her shoulders still throbbed. Her hands ached. She was so tired she could barely stand. Why did you really agree to the week? She asked quietly. Celeste was silent for a moment. Then she sat on one of the cushions, gesturing for Rhea to do the same. Because I want you to understand, she said finally. I want you to see exactly what your mother did. I want you to hear from the wolves who survived. I want you to know, truly know, that the debt is real. And then you'll kill me. Then I'll give you a choice. Rhea frowned. What choice? The same choice your mother had. Run and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, or face justice and end it clean. That's not much of a choice. It's more than my sister got. Celeste's voice was hard now. She died screaming. Burned alive while she tried to reach her children. Your mother locked the doors from the outside, made sure no one could escape. Rhea's stomach turned. Why? She whispered. Why would anyone do that? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 17 years. Celeste leaned forward. Your mother wasn't a random killer. She was calculating, deliberate. She targeted my family specifically, killed 3 people, and left the rest of the pack untouched. That's not rage. That's not madness. That's purpose. What purpose? I don't know. She never told anyone. She just did it and ran. Celeste's eyes were hard. But you're going to help me find out. Because if there's a reason, if there's something that connects your family to mine, I want to know what it is before I end this. The tent flap opened. A young wolf entered, maybe 16, with nervous eyes and shaking hands. He held a tray of food. For the prisoner, he mumbled, setting it down. He wouldn't look at Rhea, wouldn't even glance in her direction. Celeste dismissed him with a wave. Eat, she said to Rhea. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Then she left. Rhea sat alone in the tent, staring at the food she couldn't stomach, her mind racing. 1 week to find the truth, 1 week to prove she wasn't her mother, 1 week before everything ended. She pulled her knees to her chest, the silver shackles clinking softly. And for the first time since the stone hall, she let herself cry. The witnesses arrived the next evening. Rhea was brought to the central clearing where 3 wolves waited. 2 men and a woman, all older, all bearing scars that looked burn old. Celeste stood at the center like a judge. Tell her what you saw, she said simply. The woman spoke first. Her voice was rough, like she'd breathed too much smoke. I was sleeping when the fire started. Woke up to the smell, the heat. I tried to open my door, but something was blocking it from outside. I broke through a window, fell 2 stories, broke my leg. She pulled up her pant leg, showing where the bone had healed crooked. I looked back and saw her, your mother, standing in the street, watching the house burn. She had a child with her, small, maybe 4 or 5. What did she look like? Rhea asked. The woman closed her eyes. Dark hair, amber eyes, tall. She was beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful. The description matched the photograph, matched the face Rhea didn't quite remember but somehow knew. The first man spoke next. I pulled 2 bodies out of the fire, Celeste's sister and her mate. They were holding each other, trying to shield each other from the flames. His voice cracked. It didn't matter. They burned anyway. And you saw my mother? I saw her running, heading for the forest. She had the child. She moved fast, like she'd planned the whole thing. Did she say anything? Do anything that might explain why? She didn't say anything. She just left. He looked at Rhea with something that might have been pity. But she looked back once, just once. And I saw her face. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She was satisfied. The second man spoke last. His voice was flat, dead. I was Celeste's sister's mate's brother. I tried to break down the door, couldn't. The fire was too hot. I heard them screaming inside, heard them dying, and I couldn't save them. He looked at Rhea with pure hatred. Your mother did that. She killed my family, and now you're here, asking for mercy you don't deserve. The clearing was silent. Celeste turned to Rhea. Do you have questions for them? Rhea's throat was tight. Her eyes burned. Did she have any connection to your family? Any reason to? No, Celeste said. We'd never met her before that night. Never even heard her name. She was a stranger who came to our territory, killed our family, and disappeared. Then why? I don't know. Celeste's composure finally cracked. I've been asking that question for 17 years. Why us? Why them? What did we do to deserve this? She stepped closer to Rhea. And now I'm asking you. Did your mother ever tell you anything? Did she ever mention my family, my pack, anything that might explain this? I don't remember her. I don't remember anything before I was 5. You said yourself, memory charm. Then we're at a dead end. Celeste's voice was bitter. The truth died with her, and all we're left with is the debt. Wait. Everyone turned. Seraphine stepped forward from where she'd been watching at the edge of the clearing. There might be another way to find out what happened. Celeste frowned. What do you mean? Memory charms can be broken. It's difficult, dangerous, but possible. Seraphine looked at Rhea. If someone were willing to risk it, Rhea's heart kicked. You're saying you could restore my memories? Not me, but I know someone who could. A witch who specializes in undoing old magic. Where? Celeste demanded. 2 days west, in the neutral territories. Seraphine's expression was unreadable. If we leave tomorrow, we could be there and back in 5 days, just within your week deadline. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. We go. All of us. And if this is a trick, it's not a trick, Seraphine said smoothly. I want the truth as much as you do. Rhea didn't believe that for a second, but she also didn't have a choice. If there was even a chance of understanding what her mother had done, of finding out why, she had to take it, even if it killed her. Fine, she said. Let's go find a witch. Celeste smiled, and Rhea realized too late that she'd just agreed to something far more dangerous than a simple blood debt. She'd agreed to unlock memories that someone had worked very hard to bury. And people didn't bury memories unless they were protecting something or hiding from it. The neutral territories were nothing like Packlands. No structures, no order, just endless forest and the constant feeling of being watched by things that weren't quite wolf and weren't quite human. They'd been walking for a day and a half when Rhea started hearing the whispers. Not voices, exactly. More like the memory of voices, sliding between the trees just out of comprehension. The silver shackles on her wrists grew colder the deeper they went, like the metal itself was reacting to whatever lived here. How much further? Celeste asked Seraphine. Another few hours. The witch doesn't exactly advertise her location. Seraphine moved through the undergrowth like she'd done this before, never hesitating at crossroads, never questioning direction. Rhea watched her carefully. Everything about this felt wrong. Seraphine had no reason to help her, every reason to want her dead. Yet here she was, leading them deeper into territory even the packs avoided. You've been here before, Rhea said. Not a question. Seraphine glanced back. Once. A few years ago. Why? That's my business. If we're trusting you to lead us to someone who can dig around in my head, I think I deserve to know why you'd make that trip. You don't deserve anything, Seraphine said coldly. But since you asked, I needed to forget something. The witch helped me do that. What did you need to forget? Seraphine's expression closed off completely. I said it's my business. They walked in tense silence after that. Celeste's wolves spread out in formation, hands never far from weapons. Whatever truce existed between them and the Blackthorn pack member was thin enough to shatter at the first sign of trouble. The forest grew denser, older. The trees here were massive, their trunks so wide it would take 5 people holding hands to circle them. Moss hung from branches like funeral shrouds, and the air tasted damp and green. Then Seraphine stopped. We're here. Rhea looked around. I don't see anything. That's the point. Seraphine stepped forward and knocked on empty air. The sound echoed like she'd struck wood. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the air rippled, reality folding back on itself like a curtain being pulled aside. A cottage stood where nothing had been seconds before. Small, crooked, built from wood so dark it looked burned. Smoke curled from a chimney that shouldn't have been able to support itself, and windows glowed with light that wasn't quite the right color. Stay close, Seraphine said. Don't touch anything. Don't accept anything she offers. And whatever you do, don't make a deal without understanding the price. Comforting, Rhea muttered. The door opened before they reached it. A woman stood in the threshold. Old, impossibly old, her face creased with lines that mapped out centuries. But her eyes were young, sharp, the kind of eyes that saw through lies and bullshit and straight into the meat of what you were. Seraphine Drake, the witch said, her voice like gravel in a glass. I told you not to come back. I'm not here for me. No, you're here for her. The witch's gaze shifted to Rhea. The fireborn child. I wondered when you'd find your way to my door. Rhea's skin prickled. You know what I am? I know what you were. What you are is still being decided. The witch stepped aside. Come in, all of you, but the wolves stay outside. I don't entertain armies. Celeste gestured to her pack. They melted back into the forest, disappearing like they'd never been there. Inside, the cottage was larger than it should have been. The walls stretched further than the exterior allowed, and the ceiling curved up into darkness that felt infinite. Shelves lined every surface, packed with jars and bottles and things Rhea couldn't identify and didn't want to. The witch moved to a table in the center of the room. Sit. Rhea sat. The chair creaked under her weight, groaning like something alive. You want your memories back, the witch said. Statement, not question. I want to know what my mother did, why she did it. And you think remembering will help? It's all I have. The witch studied her for a long moment. Then she looked at Seraphine. You brought her here knowing what it costs. I brought her here because she deserves the truth, Seraphine said smoothly. Liar. The witch smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. You brought her here hoping it kills her. Memory restoration on a charm this old? The survival rate is maybe 1 in 5. And that's being generous. Rhea's blood went cold. What? Did she not mention that part? The witch's smile widened. Breaking a memory charm isn't like opening a locked door. It's like detonating a bomb inside your skull and hoping your brain survives the blast. Most people don't. They either die during the process or come out of it so fractured they wish they had. Seraphine's expression didn't change. I told you it was dangerous. You didn't say 1 in 5. Would it have changed your decision? Rhea wanted to say yes. Wanted to be smart enough to walk away from odds that bad. But she looked at Celeste, at the hard certainty in her face, at the blood debt hanging over her head like an axe. No, Rhea said quietly. It wouldn't have changed anything. The witch nodded. Honest, that's rare. She reached for one of the jars on the shelf, this one filled with something that moved on its own. The price for this service is high. What do you want? Celeste asked. Not from you. From her. The witch pointed at Rhea. A memory charm this powerful doesn't just hide memories. It's anchored to something, usually a piece of the person's essence, their core self. To break it, I need to replace what was taken. Replace it with what? With something of equal value. A memory she wants to keep, something precious, something that defines who she is. Rhea's throat tightened. I don't have many of those. Then choose carefully, because whatever you give me, you'll never get back. The witch set the jar on the table. And before you ask, no, you can't decide after you see what's hidden. You choose now, blind, or you don't choose at all. The room went silent. Rhea's mind raced. What memories did she have that mattered? Most of her life was a blur of work and survival, days bleeding into each other without distinction. But there were some things, small things. The first time she'd successfully transformed, alone in the forest at 13, feeling her wolf emerge and knowing, finally knowing, that she was real. The morning she'd found an injured bird in the courtyard and nursed it back to health, watching it fly away and feeling something that might have been hope. The look on Darius's face when he'd said she wasn't an outcast. The transformation, Rhea said finally. My first one. I'll trade that. The witch's expression shifted. You're sure? That's a foundational memory. Losing it will change how you understand your own power. I'm sure. Then we begin. The witch opened the jar. Smoke poured out, black and thick and smelling like burned things. Lie down. Rhea moved to the floor. The wooden boards were cold against her back. The witch knelt beside her, pulling out a knife that looked like it was made from bone. This will hurt. How much? More than you've ever felt. More than you think you can survive. The witch's voice was almost gentle. But if you hold on, if you don't let go, you might make it through. Might? 1 in 5, remember? The witch pressed the knife to Rhea's forehead, right between her eyes. Don't scream. Screaming makes it worse. And whatever you see, whatever you remember, don't run from it. Face it, or it'll tear you apart. The knife cut. Pain exploded through Rhea's skull like lightning. She'd been wrong earlier. This wasn't more than she'd ever felt. This was more than she thought existed. It felt like her brain was being peeled apart layer by layer, memories flashing past faster than she could process. Images, sounds, Feelings that had no context. A woman's face, smiling, singing something soft. Fire. So much fire. Running through darkness, small hands clutching at fabric. A voice saying, "Forget, forget, you have to forget." Then the memories slammed into her all at once. No longer fragmented, no longer hidden. She was 4 years old, sitting in a small house that smelled like herbs and cooking meat. Her mother was there, beautiful and terrifying, exactly like the witnesses had described. But she was also gentle. She braided Rhea's hair and told her stories about wolves made of flame, about queens who ruled mountains before the world forgot their names. "You're special," her mother said, tucking Rhea into bed. "Never forget that. You come from fire, from power, from a line so old it makes these new packs look like children playing at kingdoms." "Why don't we live with them?" Rhea had asked. "Why are we alone?" Her mother's expression hardened. "Because they're hunting us. Because they're afraid of what we are. Because your father—" She stopped herself. "What about father? He's gone. And we have to make sure you survive. That's all that matters." The memory shifted. Different house. Different territory. Her mother was arguing with someone, a man Rhea didn't recognize. His voice was harsh, angry. "You can't keep running forever, Elena. They'll find you eventually. They'll find her. Then I'll kill them first. That's not... You can't just... I can do whatever it takes to protect my daughter. Even if it makes you the monster they say you are?" Silence. Then her mother's voice, cold and certain, "Especially then." The memory shifted again. Nighttime. Her mother shaking her awake, urgent and frightened in a way Rhea had never seen before. "We have to go, now. Don't ask questions. Just run." They'd run through the forest, her mother carrying her when she couldn't keep up. Behind them, wolves howled, close, too close. They'd reached a territory, Celeste's territory, though Rhea didn't know that then. Her mother had set her down. "I need you to hide, right here. Don't come out until I come back." "Where are you going?" "To finish this." "Finish what?" Her mother knelt, eye level, hands on Rhea's shoulders. "There are people in this territory who helped the ones hunting us, who gave them information, who betrayed us." Her voice was flat, empty. "They need to pay for that." "But no buts. They chose their side. Now they face the consequences." Then she was gone. Rhea had hidden in the bushes, small and terrified, watching her mother approach a house in the distance, watching her bar the doors, watching her light the fire. The screaming started almost immediately. Rhea had covered her ears, crying, not understanding why her mother would do this, why anyone would do this. When her mother came back, she was covered in soot and ash. Her expression was carved from stone. "We're leaving, tonight, and you're never going to remember any of this." "Why not?" "Because if they find you, if they know who you are, they'll kill you." Her mother pulled something from her pocket, a vial filled with dark liquid. "Drink this. It'll make you forget. It'll keep you safe." "I don't want to forget." "You don't have a choice." Her mother had forced the liquid down her throat. Rhea had choked on it, struggling, crying. The last thing she remembered was her mother's face, tears running down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, but this is the only way to keep you alive." Then darkness. Then nothing. Rhea came back to herself gasping, her whole body convulsing. The witch pulled the knife away, and the pain receded slowly, leaving her hollow and shaking. "Well," the witch said quietly, "that's interesting." Rhea couldn't speak, couldn't move. The memories were still settling, reorganizing everything she thought she knew about herself. Her mother hadn't been a random killer. She'd been protecting something, protecting her. "What did you see?" Celeste demanded. Rhea pushed herself up slowly, her arms barely supporting her weight. When she looked at Celeste, everything was different now. "Your family," Rhea said hoarsely. "They weren't innocent." "What?" "They helped the people hunting my mother. They gave information, locations. Rhea's voice cracked. "They were going to turn her in. To turn me in." "That's a lie," Celeste said, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. "Is it?" Rhea stood on shaking legs. "My mother came to your territory specifically. She targeted 3 people. Not random killing, specific people, the ones who betrayed us. My sister wouldn't. Your sister made a choice, Rhea said. She sided with the people hunting a fireborn child. And my mother made her pay for that choice. The cottage went silent. Seraphine spoke up, her voice carefully neutral. That's convenient. A vision that makes your mother the victim instead of the villain. It's not a vision, it's memory, real memory. Rhea turned to the witch. Tell them if I'm lying. The witch was quiet for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. She's not lying. What she saw was real. What her mother did was real, and what your family did, she looked at Celeste, was also real. Celeste's face had gone pale. No, that's not. My sister would never. Wouldn't she? The witch's voice was gentle now, almost kind. People make terrible choices when they're afraid, when they're offered safety in exchange for information, when they think they're protecting themselves. But to betray a child, they didn't see a child. They saw a threat, a fireborn threat that could burn their entire territory if left unchecked. The witch stood, moving to the shelves. Fear makes monsters of us all, girl. Your sister just made the mistake of becoming a monster someone stronger could punish. Celeste looked at Rhea, and for the first time there was doubt in her eyes. Even if this is true, even if my family did what you say, she still killed them. The debt is still owed. Is it? Rhea's voice was stronger now, steadier. Because from where I'm standing, the debt was paid. Your family chose to hunt a child. My mother stopped them. That's not murder. That's self-defense. You don't know that's why they did it. Then find out. Rhea stepped closer. You said you've been searching for answers for 17 years. Well, here's your chance. Go back to your territory. Look through your sister's things, her papers, her correspondence. See if you find anything that connects her to the people who are hunting fireborn wolves. And if I don't find anything, then I'll submit to whatever punishment you decide. Rhea's hands were still shaking, but her voice didn't waver. But if I'm right, if your family really did betray mine, then the debt is void, and you let me walk away. Celeste was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. 5 days. That's how long we have left of your week. We go back. We search. And if I find proof that you're telling the truth, she paused. Then we're done. And if you don't? Celeste's expression hardened. Then you die. Just like your mother should have. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was more than Rhea had 5 minutes ago. Deal, she said. They left the cottage as the sun was setting, the forest around them already deep in shadow. The witch watched them go from her doorway, her ancient eyes unreadable. You gave up something precious today, she called after Rhea. Make sure it was worth it. Rhea didn't answer. She couldn't remember her first transformation anymore, couldn't recall that foundational moment of becoming what she was. But she remembered her mother now, remembered the truth, and that was worth everything. The journey back was different. Celeste's wolves kept their distance, watching Rhea with new expressions. Not quite respect, not quite fear. Something in between. Seraphine walked beside her, silent and tense. You should have died in there, she said finally. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm not disappointed. I'm confused. Seraphine's voice dropped. What did you really see? What did the witch show you? I told you, the truth. There's always more than one truth. Rhea stopped walking. She turned to face Seraphine fully. What do you want from me? Why do you hate me so much you'd risk bringing me to a witch who could kill me? Because you don't belong. Seraphine's composure cracked, just slightly. You show up out of nowhere, activate ancient relics, transform into something we haven't seen in generations, and suddenly Darius looks at you like you're the answer to everything. Do you know how long I've been trying to get him to look at me that way? So this is about jealousy? This is about order. Seraphine's voice rose. I've spent my entire life following the rules, playing the game, being perfect, and you just exist. And that's enough. You get everything I've worked for by doing nothing. I've done plenty, Rhea said quietly. You just never noticed because you were too busy looking down. I noticed. I've always noticed. Seraphine's expression was raw now, all her careful masks stripped away. I noticed how Darius watched you when you didn't see, how he defended you when no one else would, how he chose you over the entire pack's vote. He chose what was right. No, he chose you, and that's what I can't forgive. Before Rhea could respond, one of Celeste's wolves called out from ahead. "We've got company!" They rushed forward to find the scout pointing at the forest ahead. Wolves, dozens of them, emerging from the trees. And at their front, jaw set and eyes hard, was Darius. He looked at Rhea, taking in her pale face, her shaking hands, the way she looked half dead on her feet. "We're leaving," he said simply. Celeste stepped forward. "She's my prisoner. She stays with me until she's done enough." She went to the witch. "She got her answers. The rest can wait until we're back on my territory." "That's not the deal. I don't care about the deal." Darius's voice was flat, final. "I care about getting her somewhere safe. You want to continue this conversation? We do it at the compound, but right now she's coming with me." Celeste's wolves tensed, hands moving to weapons. Darius's wolves did the same. For a moment it looked like the forest was about to become a battlefield. Then Rhea stepped forward. "Stop!" Everyone looked at her. "I'll go back with Celeste," she said. "We had a deal. 5 more days to search for proof. I'm going to honor that." "Rhea," Darius started, "I need to see this through." She met his eyes. "If there's evidence that my mother was right, that the people she killed deserved it, I need to know. And so does Celeste." Darius looked like he wanted to argue, like he wanted to throw her over his shoulder and run. Instead, he took a breath and nodded slowly. 5 days. Then I'm coming back. And if she's not safe, if she's been harmed at all—" "I understand," Celeste said. 5 days. Darius looked at Rhea one more time. "Don't die." "I'll try my best." His wolves melted back into the forest, and he followed, though his eyes stayed on her until the darkness swallowed him completely. Celeste turned to Rhea. "Let's go. We have work to do." They reached Celeste's territory by dawn. The tents were quiet, most wolves still sleeping. Celeste led Rhea to a different tent this time, larger, filled with boxes and crates and stacks of old papers. "This was my sister's," Celeste said quietly. "Everything she owned. I've gone through it 100 times over the years, looking for answers, looking for something that made sense." "Maybe you weren't looking for the right thing," Rhea said. "Then help me look." They worked in silence, pulling out documents, reading through letters, checking every scrap of paper for something that might prove the story Rhea had seen. Hours passed. Then Rhea found it. A letter, old and faded, tucked in the bottom of a chest. The handwriting was neat, professional, and the content made her blood run cold. "Celeste," she said quietly, "you need to read this." Celeste took the letter, her eyes scanning the words. As she read, the color drained from her face. "No," she whispered. "No, this can't be." The letter was from someone in a northern pack, someone offering payment in exchange for information about fireborn wolves operating in the southern territories. And at the bottom, in her sister's handwriting, was a response. "We know of one, a woman and her child. They've been seen near our borders. What are you willing to pay?" Celeste's hands shook. The letter fell from her fingers. "She did it," she said, her voice hollow. "My sister, she sold them out." Rhea said nothing. There was nothing to say. "For money," Celeste continued, picking up the letter again, reading it like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "She betrayed a child for money. People do terrible things when they're desperate." "We weren't desperate. We were comfortable. Safe." Celeste looked at Rhea, and there were tears in her eyes now. She did it because she was afraid, because she thought fireborn wolves were dangerous and needed to be eliminated, because she believed the propaganda. "I'm sorry," Rhea said quietly. "Don't be." Celeste crumpled the letter in her fist. "You were right. Your mother was right. The debt—" She laughed, a broken sound. "There was never a debt, just revenge disguised as justice." She looked at Rhea directly. "You're free to go." Rhea's breath caught. "What?" "The blood debt is void. You don't owe me anything. You never did." Celeste's voice was steady now, though tears still ran down her face. "I've spent 17 years chasing the wrong person, hating the wrong family, and I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't keep doing this. Rhea stood slowly. What will you tell your pack? The truth. They deserve that much. Celeste moved to the tent entrance, looking out at the sleeping territory. And then I'll step down. Let someone else lead, someone who doesn't carry this much blood on their hands. You didn't know. I should have. I should have asked more questions, looked harder, but I was so sure I was right, so certain I was the victim. She stopped herself. Get out of here. Go back to your alpha. Live whatever life you can build. Rhea wanted to say something comforting, something that would ease the pain in Celeste's voice, but there were no words for this. So she just nodded and left. Outside, the sun was rising over the forest, painting everything gold and crimson. Seraphine was waiting by the edge of the camp. So you won, she said flatly. Nobody won. We all just lost different things. Poetic. Seraphine's voice was bitter. You're still alive. That's more than I expected. Is it? Because you're the one who led me to the witch. You're the one who knew the odds. Rhea stepped closer. What did you really want, Seraphine? For me to die? Or for me to find the truth? Seraphine was quiet for a long moment. I don't know anymore, she said finally. Maybe both. Well, you got one of them. Rhea walked past her, heading for the forest, heading home. Behind her, she heard Seraphine call out one last time. He'll never choose you, not really. You're too broken, too dangerous. Rhea stopped, looked back. Maybe, she said, but at least I'm honest about what I am. Can you say the same? Seraphine didn't answer. Rhea disappeared into the trees, leaving the camp and its ghosts behind. She had 5 days before Darius came looking for her. She'd be home in 3. Rhea made it to Blackthorn territory in 2 days, not 3. She'd pushed herself hard, moving through the forest like something was chasing her. Maybe something was. Maybe it was just the weight of everything she'd learned, everything she'd lost, pressing down until staying still felt like dying. The compound appeared through the trees at sunset, its stone buildings painted gold in shadow. Rhea stopped at the edge of the forest, suddenly uncertain. She'd left as a prisoner. A debt to be paid. What was she coming back as? Before she could figure it out, a wolf stepped out of the shadows ahead. Then another. Then 5 more, forming a loose semicircle. Guards. Watching the perimeter. One of them, a woman Rhea vaguely recognized from the kitchens, raised her hand. Identify yourself. Rhea Vance. The guards exchanged glances. The woman stepped forward, her expression unreadable. You're supposed to be with Celeste's pack for another 3 days. Plans changed. Did they? It wasn't a question. The woman studied Rhea carefully, the torn clothes, the exhaustion, the silver shackles still locked around her wrists. You escape? No, I was released. Released? The woman's eyebrow arched. Just like that? The blood debt was fraudulent. Celeste found proof her family betrayed mine first, so she let me go. The guards didn't move. Didn't lower their weapons. That's a convenient story, another guard said, a man with a scar running down his cheek. It's the truth. Truth is, we were told you'd be gone a week, coming back early, alone, with a story about being released. The man's hand tightened on his weapon. Sounds more like you killed someone and ran. Rhea's patience, already worn thin, snapped. You think I killed 50 wolves and escaped, by myself, while wearing silver shackles? Stranger things have happened. Not to me, they haven't. Rhea stepped forward. The guards tensed. Look, I'm tired. I'm hurt. I've walked for 2 days straight on maybe 4 hours of sleep total. I just want to talk to Darius, explain what happened, and then sleep for about a week. Can you please just let me through? The woman guard exchanged another look with her companions. Then she nodded slowly. Fine, but we're escorting you. And if you try anything, I know, you'll kill me. Everyone wants to kill me. I'm used to it by now. They walked through the compound in tense formation, Rhea in the center, guards on all sides. Wolves stopped what they were doing to stare. Whispers followed them like smoke. Thought she was gone. What's she doing back? Someone get the council. By the time they reached the main house, a crowd had gathered. Rhea saw Counselor Brennan pushing through, her face tight with anger. Vero was right behind her. What is the meaning of this? Brennan demanded. She showed up at the perimeter, the woman guard said. Claims Celeste released her. Celeste would never... Brennan stopped herself, looking at Rhea with narrowed eyes. Where's Seraphine? Still with Celeste's pack, as far as I know. You left her there? I didn't leave anyone anywhere. Celeste let me go. Seraphine chose to stay. Rhea was swaying on her feet now, exhaustion catching up. Can someone please just get Darius? I don't have the energy for this. The Alpha is in the Northern Territories dealing with a border dispute, Vero said. He won't be back for at least 2 more days. Rhea's heart sank. 2 more days. Then I'll wait, she said. You'll wait in a cell, Brennan said flatly, until we can verify your story. You're arresting me? We're securing a potential threat until we have more information. There's a difference. Not much of one. 2 guards moved to grab her arms. Rhea was too tired to fight. They let her down, beneath the main house, into the holding cells she'd been in before. The door slammed shut with a finality that echoed in her bones. Rhea collapsed onto the thin cot in the corner, her body finally giving out. The silver shackles weighed heavy on her wrists, but she barely felt them anymore. She'd survived the witch, survived the truth about her mother, survived the journey home, and now she was right back where she started, locked up, waiting for someone else to decide if she deserved to live. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so exhausting. She closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. She woke to the sound of arguing, voices above, muffled by stone but still audible. Rhea pushed herself up, her body screaming protest, and moved to the cell door. Can't just hold her indefinitely. We can hold her until the Alpha returns. That's 2 more days. What if Celeste comes looking for her? What if this starts another conflict? Then we deal with it. Footsteps on the stairs. Rhea stepped back from the door. Counselor Brennan appeared, flanked by 2 guards. She looked at Rhea through the bars with an expression caught somewhere between contempt and uncertainty. We need to talk, Brennan said. I'm not going anywhere. A messenger arrived this morning from Celeste's territory. Brennan pulled a folded paper from her coat. She confirms your story, says the blood debt is void and you were released freely. Rhea let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. So you believe me now? I believe Celeste. That doesn't mean I trust you. Brennan gestured to the guards. They unlocked the cell door. But I can't justify keeping you imprisoned when you haven't actually done anything wrong. The door swung open. Rhea stepped out slowly, half expecting it to slam shut again. It didn't. The shackles stay on until Darius returns, Brennan said. That's non-negotiable. Fine. And you stay in the main house. No wandering the compound. No contact with the general pack population until we've had time to explain the situation properly. Also fine. Brennan looked like she wanted to argue more, like she was disappointed Rhea wasn't fighting her. Instead, she just turned and walked away, leaving Rhea standing in the corridor with 2 guards who looked equally uncomfortable. This way, one of them muttered. They led her back up to the room she'd woken in after the stone hall transformation. The same furs on the bed, the same windows overlooking the compound, the same feeling of not belonging. Rhea collapsed onto the bed without bothering to undress. Sleep took her again, immediate and complete. When she woke, it was dark outside, and someone was sitting in the chair by the window. Rhea's hand went to her side, looking for a weapon that wasn't there. Relax, a familiar voice said. It's just me. Darius stood, moving into the light from the dying fire. He looked different. Older, somehow, though only 3 days had passed. His clothes were dusty from travel, and there was a fresh cut above his left eye that hadn't been there before. You're back early, Rhea said. I heard you were here. Decided the border dispute could wait. He crossed to the bed, studying her face. Are you okay? Define okay. Are you hurt? Did Celeste let me go. I told you what happened in the message. I know what the message said. I want to hear it from you. So Rhea told him. Everything. The witch, the memories, the letter proving her mother had been right, Celeste's breakdown, the journey home. Darius listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Your mother killed 3 people to protect you, he said finally. Yes, and you don't remember your first transformation anymore because you traded that memory for the truth. Yes. Was it worth it? Rhea looked down at her hands, at the silver shackles still locked around her wrists, at the scars from the burns that would never fully heal. I don't know yet, she said honestly. Ask me in a year. Darius made a sound that might have been a laugh. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. Give me your hands. Rhea held them out. He unlocked the shackles, letting them fall to the floor with a dull clank. The relief was immediate. Cool air on raw skin. Freedom in her wrists. Brennan said these stay on until you got back, Rhea said. And now I'm back. And I say they come off. Darius tossed the shackles aside. You've been through enough. The council won't like it. The council can adapt or find new jobs. You can't just... I can do whatever I want. I'm the alpha. He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. And what I want is for you to stop being treated like a criminal when you haven't done anything wrong. I activated a sacred relic without permission. I transformed in front of the entire pack without warning. You survived, Darius interrupted, against odds that should have broken you. That's not a crime. That's a miracle. Rhea's throat tightened. You don't know me well enough to say things like that. Then let me get to know you. His voice was quiet, certain. Stay. Train. Learn to control that fire before it burns you up from the inside. Let me help you figure out who you really are. Why? The question came out harsh. Why do you care so much about some servant girl who showed up out of nowhere? Because you're not some servant girl. You're a fireborn wolf who survived 17 years of people trying to erase her. Darius's dark eyes were steady on hers. And because when I look at you, I see someone who could change everything about how this pack operates. How all the packs operate. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. You handled a witch, a blood debt trial, and a week with Celeste. I think you can handle a little pressure. Despite everything, Rhea smiled. A little? Okay, a lot. But you'll have help. From who? The council hates me. Half the pack thinks I'm a threat. Seraphine wants me dead. From me, Darius said simply. You'll have help from me. That enough? Rhea looked at him, really looked. At the scar over his eye, the gray threading through his hair, the weight he carried in every movement. He was offering her something she'd never had before. Not pity, not tolerance. Partnership. Yeah, she said quietly. That's enough. Morning came too fast. Rhea woke to find Darius gone. A note on the pillow beside her saying he'd gone to deal with the council. She dressed in clothes someone had left. Simple pants and a shirt that actually fit, a luxury she wasn't used to, and made her way downstairs. The main hall was packed. Every council member was there, plus what looked like representatives from at least 3 other packs, wolves Rhea didn't recognize, all wearing different territorial markers. And at the center of it all, standing beside Darius like she owned the place, was Seraphine. She looked different, harder. Her perfect composure was back, but there was something brittle underneath it now. Her eyes found Rhea's immediately. There she is, Seraphine said, her voice carrying. The girl who abandoned me in hostile territory. Rhea stopped on the stairs. I didn't abandon you. You chose to stay. Did I? Or did you run the moment you got what you wanted, leaving me to deal with the consequences? What consequences? Celeste let both of us go. After you left, yes, but you didn't know that would happen. You just ran. Seraphine's voice was sharp as broken glass. You ran and left me surrounded by wolves who blamed me for bringing you to the witch. Who thought I was complicit in your mother's crimes? That's not... They held me for 2 days, Rhea. 2 days of questioning, of threats, of wondering if I was going to make it out alive. Seraphine stepped forward, all because you couldn't be bothered to wait. The room went silent. Darius spoke up. Is this true? Did Celeste's pack hold you? They were, concerned about my involvement, Seraphine said carefully. About whether I'd known the truth all along, whether I'd deliberately led them to false information. But they let you go. Eventually, after Celeste found the letter proving Rhea's story. Seraphine's voice was cold. But those 2 days, I won't forget them. Rhea felt the weight of the room shift. People looking at her differently now, judging. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know... Of course you didn't know, because you only think about yourself. Seraphine turned to the council. This is who you're protecting. Someone who puts her own survival above everyone else's. Someone who can't be trusted. Counselor Vero leaned forward. She makes a point. If Rhea is willing to abandon one of our own in hostile territory, I didn't abandon anyone, Rhea said, louder now. Seraphine made her choice. I made mine. We both survived. That's all that matters. Is it? Brennan's voice was sharp. Because from where I'm sitting, you've caused nothing but chaos since the moment you activated that relic. The pack is divided. We've nearly gone to war twice, and now we have other territories asking questions about why we're harboring a Fireborn. She gestured to the visiting wolves. One of them, an older man with silver in his beard, spoke up. We've heard rumors, a Fireborn transformation, ancient relics responding, conflicts with neighboring packs. His voice was measured but firm. The northern territories want to know if the Blackthorn pack is stable, if your alpha can control what he's protecting. She's not a thing to be controlled, Darius said. Isn't she? Because from what we've heard, she's dangerous, unstable, a threat to pack order. The man looked at Rhea. No offense, girl, but your kind hasn't been seen in over a century for a reason. You burn too hot. You break things that can't be fixed. I haven't broken anything, Rhea said quietly. Haven't you? Seraphine's voice was smooth, poisonous. You broke the altar in the stone hall. You broke Celeste's certainty about her own family. You broke whatever trust this pack had in its leadership. She looked at Darius. And you're breaking him, making him choose you over his own people. That's not fair, isn't it? Seraphine turned to the assembled crowd. Ask yourselves, has anything gotten better since she arrived? Or has everything just gotten more complicated, more dangerous, more uncertain? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Rhea felt the walls closing in. The same feeling from the stone hall, from the courtyard, from every moment in her life when people had looked at her and decided she was the problem. But this time, something was different. This time she'd seen what her mother had been willing to do to protect her. This time she knew the truth about who she was and where she came from. This time she wasn't going to shrink. You're right, Rhea said. The room went quiet. Things have gotten more complicated since I showed up, more uncertain, and yes, more dangerous. She stepped down the remaining stairs, moving to the center of the hall. But that's not because of me. It's because this pack, all the packs, have been operating on a lie. What lie? Vero demanded. That strength comes from bloodlines, from heritage, from being born into the right family. Rhea looked around the room, meeting eyes that had always looked through her. I'm proof that's not true. I'm nobody's daughter except a murderer's. I have no name, no lineage worth mentioning. By every measure you use, I should be nothing. You are nothing, someone muttered from the back. Maybe, but I'm also the first Fireborn to emerge in over a century. I activated a relic that hasn't responded to anyone, including your precious bloodlines, in generations. And I survived a week with a pack that wanted me dead. Her voice grew stronger. So which is it? Am I nothing, or am I something you're all afraid of? No one answered. Because if I'm nothing, then none of this matters. The relic was a fluke, the transformation was an accident, and you can all go back to your comfortable little hierarchies where everyone knows their place. Rhea looked at Darius. But if I'm something, if I'm proof that power doesn't care about your bloodlines or your traditions or your carefully maintained order, then you have a choice to make. What choice? Brennan asked. Adapt or die. Rhea's voice was flat. Because the world is changing whether you like it or not, and you can either change with it or get left behind. The room erupted, voices overlapping, arguing, shouting, some agreeing, some vehemently opposed. The council tried to restore order, but the chaos had already taken hold. Darius stood, and the noise cut off like someone had severed it with a blade. She's right, he said simply. Every head turned to stare at him. The pack has been operating on outdated systems for too long. Bloodlines mattering more than capability. Heritage mattering more than strength. It's made us rigid, predictable, weak. He looked at the visiting wolves. You want to know if this pack is stable? It's more stable now than it's been in years, because we're finally questioning the things that needed to be questioned. The silver-bearded man frowned. With respect, my lord, that sounds like instability to me. Then you don't understand what real strength looks like. Darius turned to Rhea. Show them. Rhea's heart kicked. What? Transform. Let them see what you really are. Here? Now? Unless you're afraid. It was a challenge, a test. Rhea looked around the room, at all the faces watching her with doubt, with fear, with contempt. Then she closed her eyes and let go. The transformation was easier this time, faster, like her body remembered what to do even if her mind had forgotten that first time. Heat bloomed in her chest, spreading outward in waves. Her bones cracked and reformed. Her shape changed. And then she was standing there, massive, flame-touched, undeniable. The hall erupted in firelight as flames danced along her spine, spreading to the floor beneath her paws. The temperature in the room spiked. Someone gasped. Rhea's wolf form turned slowly, letting everyone see, letting them understand. She wasn't a mistake. She wasn't an accident. She was power incarnate. Then she shifted back, the transformation reversing smoothly. She stood on human legs again, barely winded. The hall was silent. The silver-bearded man spoke first. "That's impressive." "That's terrifying," another visitor corrected. "Both," Darius said, which is exactly why she stays. Because if we can teach her control, if we can help her master that power, imagine what she could do. Imagine what this pack could become. Brennan found her voice. "And if we can't? If she loses control in the middle of the compound?" "Then I'll handle it," Darius said. "But I don't think that's going to happen, because she's already proven she's stronger than any of us gave her credit for." Varro stood slowly. "This is a mistake. Harboring someone this powerful, this unstable—" "I'm not unstable," Rhea interrupted. "I'm just done pretending to be weak to make you comfortable." "That's exactly what makes you dangerous." "No. What makes me dangerous is that I survived everything you all put me through and came out stronger." Rhea's voice was quiet now, deadly. "I could have burned this place down a dozen times over the years. Could have made you all pay for every insult, every dismissal, every moment you made me feel like nothing. But I didn't, because I'm not my mother. I don't solve problems with fire." She looked at Seraphine. "But I'm also done apologizing for existing, done making myself small so you feel big. If that makes me dangerous, fine. But at least I'm honest about it." Seraphine's composure finally shattered completely. "You think you've won? You think just because Darius is protecting you, everything will be fine?" "I don't think I've won anything. I think I've survived. There's a difference." "Then keep surviving." Seraphine's voice dropped to something venomous. "Because I'm not done with you, not even close." She turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing in the silent hall. The visiting wolves exchanged glances. The silver-bearded man stood. "We'll report back to our territories that the Blackthorn pack is evolving. Whether that's a good thing or not remains to be seen." He nodded to Darius. "But we'll be watching." They left. The council members followed, muttering among themselves. Soon, only Darius and Rhea remained. "That went well," Rhea said dryly. "You just threatened half the power structure in this territory and scared the hell out of our neighbors. I'd say it went perfectly." Darius moved closer. "How do you feel?" "Like I just jumped off a cliff and I'm still waiting to hit the ground." "Welcome to leadership," he smiled. "It never gets less terrifying. You just get better at hiding it." "I'm not a leader." "Not yet." "But you could be." Rhea looked at him. "Is that what this is? Training me to take over?" "This is me recognizing that you're the first real challenge to the old ways in generations. And challenges either destroy systems or transform them." Darius's expression was serious now. "I'm betting you'll transform it, but only if you survive long enough. No pressure. Enormous pressure. But you'll manage." Despite everything, Rhea laughed. It felt strange, foreign, like a muscle she'd forgotten how to use. "So what now?" she asked. "Now you train, you learn, you become exactly what you're meant to be." Darius held out his hand. "And you do it standing beside me, as an equal, not a servant, not a prisoner, an equal." Rhea looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. 3 months later, Rhea stood in the stone hall again. But this time, she wasn't in chains. She wasn't facing execution. She was training. The altar had been repaired, the scorch marks cleaned away. The Thornfire relic sat in its center, pulsing softly, responding to her presence even from across the room. Darius circled her slowly, watching her stance. Again. Rhea closed her eyes, reaching for the fire inside her. It came easier now, after weeks of practice. Controlled, deliberate. She let it flow down her arms into her palms. Flames danced across her skin, hot but not burning her. Good, Darius said. Now hold it. Don't let it spread. Just hold. Rhea concentrated. The flames flickered but stayed contained. How long? She asked through gritted teeth. Until I say stop. Her arms shook. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she held it. 1 minute, 2. Stop. The flames extinguished immediately. Rhea stumbled, catching herself against the altar. You're getting better, Darius said. I'm getting tired. Same thing. He moved to stand beside her. 3 months ago, you couldn't hold fire for more than 10 seconds without losing control. Now you're up to 2 minutes. Still not enough. It will be, given time. Rhea looked at the relic. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, like it recognized her, like it was waiting for something. What do you think it wants? She asked quietly. I don't think it wants anything. I think it's just responding to what you are. Darius touched the crystal lightly. But I've been doing research, reading the old texts, trying to understand what fireborn wolves were really capable of. And I think we've barely scratched the surface. He looked at her. Your mother could call fire from stone, could burn through silver like it was paper, could transform faster than any normal wolf and hit harder than should be physically possible. That's not exactly comforting. It's not meant to be comforting, it's meant to be honest. Darius's voice was gentle. You're going to be more powerful than anyone in this compound, probably more powerful than anyone in the Northern Territories. The question is what you do with that power. I don't want power. I know. That's what makes you safe to have it. Footsteps echoed from the hall entrance. A guard appeared, breathless. My lord, there's a situation. Border Patrol found someone. They're asking for Rhea. Rhea and Darius exchanged glances. Who? Darius asked. She says her name is Elena Vance. The world tilted. Rhea's mother was dead, had been dead for 17 years. Except apparently, she wasn't. Bring her in, Darius said. The guard disappeared, returned moments later with a woman between 2 escorts. She was older than in the photographs, thinner. Her dark hair was shot through with gray, and her amber eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. But it was her. Undeniably her. Rhea's mother looked across the hall and met her daughter's eyes. Hello, sweetheart, she said quietly. I'm sorry it took so long to find you. Rhea couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stare at the ghost standing in front of her. You're dead, she whispered. I let people believe that. It was safer for both of us. Elena's voice cracked. But I never stopped looking, never stopped trying to get back to you. 17 years, I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm here now. And I need to tell you the truth about everything, about who you really are, about why I did what I did. Elena looked at Darius. And about what's coming for all of us if we don't prepare. Darius's expression hardened. What's coming? The people who wanted us dead 17 years ago? They never stopped hunting. They just went underground, waiting, building strength. Elena's eyes were dark. And now they know Rhea survived. They know she's here, and they're coming to finish what they started. The stone hall went silent. Rhea felt the fire inside her flare, responding to fear, to anger, to the sheer impossibility of everything happening. Her mother was alive. Her mother had been hiding for 17 years. And now, apparently, they were all in danger. How long do we have? Darius asked quietly. Days? Maybe less. Elena looked at Rhea. Which is why we need to start training. Real training. Because what you've learned so far. She shook her head. That's nothing compared to what you're actually capable of. Rhea found her voice finally. Who are they? Who's coming? The people who destroyed our family, who burned down the fireborn line because they were afraid of what we could become. Elena's voice was hard now, cold. They're called the Ember Hunters, and they've been wiping out wolves like us for 200 years. Like us? Fireborn, blood magic users, anyone who carries the old power in their veins. Elena stepped closer. They almost succeeded in killing our entire line, but they missed 2 people, me and you. She smiled, and it was terrible. And now we're going to make them regret that mistake. Rhea looked at Darius, saw the same calculation in his eyes that she felt in her chest. War was coming, Real war. Not pack politics or blood debts or territorial disputes. Something bigger. Something that had been building for centuries, and she was right in the center of it. "When do we start?" Rhea asked her mother. Elena's smile widened. "Right now." She raised her hand and flames erupted from her palm. Not the small controlled fire Rhea had been practicing. This was an inferno, roaring and wild and impossibly powerful. The thornfire relic blazed to life in response, its light filling the entire hall. And Rhea felt something inside her answer, something deep and old and hungry for release. For 17 years, she'd been nothing, nobody, a servant who scrubbed floors and stayed invisible. But that girl was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone who carried fire in her blood and power in her bones, someone who'd survived everything the world threw at her and come out stronger, someone who was done hiding. Rhea raised her own hand, calling fire to match her mother's. The flames merged, twisting together, growing until the entire stone hall was bathed in gold and crimson light. Outside, wolves gathered to watch, some in fear, some in awe. All of them understanding finally that everything had changed. The servant girl was gone. In her place stood the Fireborn, and she was done apologizing for burning bright.